Great. So that went well. All right, everyone. Thank you so much for joining the talk. And thank you, Joffrey, for having me for this particular event. Depending on the feedback and the interaction of this event, I'm going to see if I want to come to Luxembourg or not, but hopefully I will. So this topic that we're discussing is really interesting. It's my first interaction with something that worked for me out of the box, did not cause me issue, pain, or sleepless nights. So we are talking about prompt to production with Firebase Studio and Gemini Code Assist. As you know, we have so many tools today like V0, Lovable, even more. But when it really comes to scaling your product, once it goes from idea to production, I think Gemini and Firebase Studio are one of the best out there. So, first of all, hello to all of you. Hello to all of you who are creative, who are spending your time in the evening learning, growing. So, that's a big achievement in itself. You all are builders, you're problem solvers, you're innovators. You all would have ideas at the back of your head. Some of them you might have discussed already at a coffee shop with your friends. Some ideas would be on a napkin. Some might even be in Google Sheets or some Google Docs. And that's something that we probably share in common. And the reality of the fact is that a lot of those ideas just die. They die on the local host. Some on localhost 4200, some on localhost 8000, some on 4000. Really depends on which kind of framework you're using for your project. And it's not really as fun. So, as I mentioned, we all have those ideas. Something that could help with productivity, some could be for networking that brings people together, or even games. And all is fun and games until Monday morning, because Monday is the time when dreams meet reality. Then you start thinking of the facts. You think about my app now needs a server, it needs a database schema, it probably needs authentication flow, and then a boilerplate maybe that I can start working on my idea with. So suddenly your brilliant idea that you had, now it feels more like a burden rather than a breakthrough. And that initial spark that we have, that is just buried under this avalanche of configuration. So another idea essentially starts from your computer and joins the friends in the graveyard. And that happens on and on and on again. So a bit of myself. My name is Mohammed Ahsan. I'm originally from Pakistan, from the city Karachi. I've been living in Stockholm, Sweden for the past 6 years. I've been working as a software developer for more than 13 years now. I work at a company called Scania, which builds trucks, pretty famous in Europe, if you ask me. And I'm working there as a software architect. I'm also someone who is awarded multiple times from Sweden and in conferences like JavaScript Poland or Google events like the GD Summit for my contributions as an educator, as a YouTuber, and whatnot. This was at the JavaScript Poland conference, and this was at the recent GD Summit, where they were celebrating my 300,000 views of my Angular crash course in 90 minutes. And this is my third book. The slide is a bit old, so it's not free anymore. But the fun thing is that today my book got out of this Amazon's feature, which means that I can actually put this book on other platforms. So it might even be for free in a day or two. So if you're interested in Angular, just keep an eye on my social media, and you will hear the news or see it. Now going back to the graveyard, where all those amazing ideas are buried, and there's this plethora of things to be done. What if we could skip the boring parts and jump directly to what is more important? For example, let's focus on what we want to build rather than how we want to build. If the how can be handled somehow, then we can only focus on what needs to be delivered, how the users would use it, or what the users should be using. If you ask me, or if you already know, the software development cycle basically looks like this. You basically build something, you code it, then sorry, you code, you build it, you ship it, you test it, then you release to production, and then you monitor your changes, you see if something is breaking. We discussed P1, P99, amazing topics, and that is the reality of production today for a lot of companies. And we operate on those issues, we code, we build, release, and it's a hectic process, to be honest. And these are the kind of questions that we would have when we are talking about the ideas that we have or our friends have. What is the technology stack? What are the dependencies that I have to use? What libraries do I use? Is what I'm building secure, scalable? Is it performant? Who are my users? What are their ideas? Blah, blah, blah. There's so many questions, and it becomes really difficult to just ship something that people can start using. And if you ask me today, with this revolution of AI, how something is today depends on who is working on the project. There are two extremes to this, where we have one extreme where a developer uses AI just merely to get some assistance, just to get some ideas. Autocomplete, as mentioned in the previous talk, was one of the beginning of it. That you start typing something, it gives you some ideas, and then you go from there. You're just taking assistance from it, but you know exactly what to do. The other extreme is AI. You let AI drive drive whatever you're driving, and it's in the driving seat. You give it a task. AI does everything. We have no clue how it works, but we are just checking if it works. And then we have something in the middle where a developer basically works with AI and takes advantage of the supervision, but still knows or tries to understand what's going on. I personally like to be somewhat around here. And by the end of this talk, I want you to think and let me know which extreme do you see yourself, or do you see yourself in the middle or somewhat towards AI, especially the people who have joined us virtually. I would love to see your answers in the comments. So, talking about that, today we have a bunch of good tools that can help us with this issue of getting rid of those questions on how we want to build things. And Firebase Studio, honestly, is one of those tools. And not just because I'm a GD and I have to talk about Firebase, but this is actually one of those things that I've started using myself to ship things that are important to me. For example, I have a storage filled with a lot of stuff that I just need to give away, but how do I give it away? Should I maintain a Google sheet where I list those things down and then someone buys it and then I mark it down? Is that what I want to do? Should I want to post it on WhatsApp and then keep track of who's getting it? Well, I went to Firebase Studio and built an app for myself, which is a gift away application. And anyone with a mobile phone can just claim something and they can get it. And its mark is done already, or mark is claimed already. So those are the kind of things that you can do with Firebase Studio today. So Firebase Studio is really good for a bunch of reasons. I mean, if I start covering all of these things, it's going to take maybe 2 hours, 3 hours. But just the fact that is a web-based IDE that is collaborative is amazing. If you don't have your laptop with you, you can just open your phone and start coding if you're that kind of person. But you could code on a tablet. You could code on a Chromebook. You don't have to have a lot of resources in your machine. You don't have to have a high-end CPU, a GPU, and you can still get things done. As it is designed for collaboration and there's no limit, you can also work with others. It has a live preview, it has AI assistants built in, you can work with Gemini right in there, and you have deep Google integrations as well. So you can work with Firebase authentication, Firebase storage, Firestore, all of these things right in there, which is super amazing. And one of the best things is that this is built on top of the Code OS, which is what VS Code runs on. So you get to bring all your themes, your fonts, your settings, your extensions to this Firebase Studio, which is awesome. So you're already familiar with all of that. Now, there are two different ways of working with Firebase Studio. There's an AI centric view, and there's also a code centric view. What I like about Google is that they do want us to have a choice, and having a choice is important. They want us to have a choice in terms of how much we want to use AI or even how little we want to use AI. When you go into this AI centric view, AI has the driving wheel. So it does all the things, and you get to just approve or decline some things, or you get to see if things work or not. When you go into the code centric view, then you have the driving wheel. Then you are in charge. You look at the code, you can make changes to the code, and you can take help from AI here and there. So when you look at the AI centric view, this is your prototyper mode, as they call it. And here you see the preview of the application right there and then. And on the right side, you have this chat where you can interact with Firebase Studio, or you're interacting with Gemini essentially. And you can ask it to implement some features, fix some things and whatnot. The other one is essentially the pro code mode. In this case, you have a bunch of things going on. And the beauty here is that you do have the choice. So you can basically switch from one place to another really quickly. You just have to click a button. It goes from AI mode or AI centric mode to pro code mode, and from pro code mode to AI centric view. So, with that said, we're going to have a look at the demo. And it's not a live demo because I've built already what I wanted to show. But I'm going to tell you how my thought process was, how I could build an application. And there's no thing here that I'm going to discuss that is hidden from you. Everything is transparent. It's the whole process, and it's a real world use case. So, the talk that I'm giving you right now, this was first delivered in the city Dusseldorf in Germany, just before a Google Cloud Nordic Summit. And I was at the airport, and I was thinking, what should I really build that showcases the power of Firebase Studio? And I thought, okay, I do have a use case. And while sitting at the airport, I could build the whole use case. And that is essentially an application in which I can interact with all of the people who are joining a workshop, a tech workshop with me. And I can clearly see in the app who is stuck, who is done with the current task. And if I wanted to change the goals, I could change the goals. That was my whole idea of an application. So what I did is that I went to Firebase Studio and I went and basically gave it my prompt. I said, I'm a speaker and a software architect. I want to create an app that helps me in my workshops. The app will allow attendees of the workshop to join the particular workshop, and then everyone assigns get a random emoji. So I'm defining it how the app should look. So everybody who joins the workshop gets a random emoji, and they also get a random background. This is just so we have even more probabilities of what a user can be assigned to. So a random emoji and a random background. So even if two people have the same emoji, they would at least have a random background or different background. The fact here is that when you give a short prompt to Firebase Studio, it has this button that says improve prompt, because Firebase Studio wants to have more knowledge on what your application is about. And the more instructions you give to the prompt, the more clear you are about how it should look, what features it should it have a database or not, what should be the database schema, depending on how technical you are. You should be providing as much details as possible. Well, I went ahead and I wrote the whole prompt myself. So I didn't use the improve function, but I did update my prompt to say, once I join as an organizer, or once some people join the workshop, I should be able to set a goal for the workshop. Everyone who's attending can just signal green that I'm done with the task, or they can say red that I'm stuck. And then also, I said, as an organizer, I should be able to see as many people at the same time as possible. So I asked it to implement a grid and a slider. So when I slide the slider, I can see more people or more boxes with emojis. And if I slide it the other way around, then I see bigger emojis but less people in on the screen at the same time. And then I also said use a database to save all the attendees, workshops with goals and count, and how many people got stuck. So all those details essentially. Once I did that, one of the best things about Firebase Studio is this thing. I've not seen this anywhere in other projects. If you have seen, just let me know. This is a blueprint of the application it's going to create. This tells me that it's going to have a data storage, and it says it's going to use a backend with Firestore database. Then it also has features list. So it says attendees would be joining. We would have status signaling. Some people would say green, I'm done with the current goal. Some people would say red, I'm stuck at the moment. Similarly, we would have a progress monitoring as well. We would have the grid resizing feature, and we would have a reporting dashboard. So I could see all the information later on. Then it also tells me about the color scheme it's going to be using, what typography it's going to use, what fonts it would be using, what kind of icons and transitions and animation. And being a front end software architect, this is actually really important to me. I need to know how it would look. So this is really helpful for me particularly. Finally, it tells me the tech stack. So far, Firebase Studio supports Next.js with TypeScript and Tailwind CSS, but the plans are, of course, to add more things. We also have, I think, Flutter as well. You could also create a Python application as well. I tried that as well. But when it comes to a full stack application, we have Next.js so far, as per my knowledge. And the backend is with Cloud Firestore and Firebase Authentication. But in the future, I've heard that we would be able to add different backends, different databases as well. But we'll see when that comes. So once I approve the blueprint, and by the way, in the blueprint, not only I can just say prototype this app, I can also customize it as well. I can say, no, I don't want these colors. Give me different set of colors or different typography or font. So I can be in control of what's going to happen. So it starts prototyping the application, and this is the AI centric view or the prototyper view. So in here, it starts creating all these files, does a bunch of things, and then we have the Monday. So if you remember, the Monday morning is not as good for us. So what happens then? We get an error. So far it was pretty nice. We got the blueprint, but no, we have some error right here and nothing works. So I can't even see what is the first preview. But the question is not that is it getting errors. I think the question should be, can it recover from it itself? Especially for someone who's not technical, let's say a product manager or an HR manager, whoever that is. The good thing is that I can review the issues right here. I can click this button, two issues, and it shows me what those errors are. Or I could go ahead and fix the error or let Gemini fix the error. And thankfully, when I click that error or that button, and it has never happened to me that it so far that it hasn't fixed the issue. So this time also this fixed the issue, and this is the first preview of our application. I won't say this is the best front end that I would expect, but it's really decent and it's usable for me, and I would use it. So now we have a workshop pulse application, and I can generate a new workshop here. I could go ahead and give it a name and a goal. Pretty nice. When I go in a workshop after it has been generated, I see this view. So I can see the total number of attendees. I can see how many of them are done with the current goal with the green mark and how many of them is stuck. I can also see there's a button that says join workshop, so people can actually join workshop. And if you look down here for organizer, that is me, there are controls. I can set the current goal for the workshop, which is happening right now. And I can also use this slider to resize the grid. And this is how it would look for someone who has joined the workshop. They have a random emoji as I asked. They have a random background as I asked. And they also have these two buttons, one for saying I'm done and the other one for I'm stuck. And this was really good so far. So far, I was around here using AI more with the AI centric view and just giving some instructions. But the question is, can I do this thing right here? Can I be really precise about a little tiny feature and actually see the code? And so far, what has been done is that AI was basically generating a bunch of stuff. For example, here you can see I did not have any say in what's being done. I just said something to the AI model, and the AI basically generated the code. There was no confirmation even. But if I want this particular model, then I should be in control. I should be able to accept or reject the suggestions. And that is what we can do by going to the pro code mode. So when you click this button at the top, you switch to code. And when you do so, you have a bunch of things. You have your code editor, which is right here. You have the web preview right in the editor itself. And you also have access to Gemini. And with Gemini, you can ask precise questions. So I asked it a few things. I said, automatically track the people joining and leaving. If they leave the tab automatically, they should be removed and we should not count them as attendees. And then I also asked it something interesting because right now, what we had was just two things. People could either say, I'm stuck, or people could say, I'm done. There's no in between. What if someone is stuck and now I help them and they're not stuck anymore? So there was no state for them. Once a person is stuck, they're just stuck until they say I'm done. So I needed something in the middle to say I'm unstuck now or I'm not stuck anymore. So I went ahead, I basically asked the same thing. And then what Gemini did is it said, hey, there's a change. And then it says, I added a functionality to track the users, blah, blah, blah. And now it also says, I've added a button that allows users to mark themselves as unstuck. Is there a problem right here? Do we see an issue?
No.
Let's see how good of the eyes you have.
That if they should not be removed, right? If they
Could be.
No, you will have three buttons. I'm good, I'm not good, and I'm unstuck, which means nothing actually.
Aha, yes, exactly. That was the idea. But do we see any issue in the screenshot right now?
workshop ID is weird in the path.
Workshop ID is weird. That could be. Yeah.
What is an empty change?
Bingo. So it says, I've added this, that, I've done so much work, blah, blah, blah. But then it says one file was changed. and there is an empty change. So it did not do anything at all. And I confronted the AI. I was like, no, you have not done anything. Actually do it and implement it. And I was a bit polite because AI can take over the world and I don't want to die from AI. So I said, pretty please. So then it actually made the changes. And now I can see those changes. So it made some changes in the page CSX and I reviewed those changes. And just by clicking review changes button that you see right here, you can review the changes. And then you can say update file and it updates a file. Ta-da! Now we have an unstuck button here as well that the people can click and they would be unstuck. When someone is stuck, you see right here that there's a red flash. And I'm going to show you in just a bit when we'll use this application. And when you say unstuck, then it is essentially unstuck. So when you want to get unstuck, just press the button, GG easy. And then I wanted to fix something more. Now this is a classic mistake or classic error in web dev. As soon as I go to a particular workshop, I see this. But a few milliseconds later, I actually see the workshop. So this error was only being shown when there was no workshop. So the workshop is being loaded right now. There's an API call gone, and I'm fetching the information, and it says workshop not found. Well, that's not right because workshop is actually there. It's just loading. So I went ahead and I said, instead of showing workshop not found, when the workshop is loading, please show a loading indicator. And then it made some changes, and ta-da! One of the biggest nightmares of a front-end developer is essentially centering things. And as you can see that it did it pretty nicely. And my camera died, so it's another one. So now we have a centered loading indicator that was pretty nice. And when now the application loads, we see the workshop perfectly. All right. So all these things are done now. I thought that the feature list is actually completed. Now we can actually go and publish this application because I want others to use this as well and join this as well. So when you start publishing your application, it has to create a Firebase project. And the reason for doing that is that because it's using a database and it's using Firestore database. So that's why it has to have a Firebase project. So once you have your Firebase project generated, it requires an account that it can build to. By default, Firebase is pretty generous, so you don't get charged at all for a lot of requests. So yeah, I have almost all my projects just running for free. And then you say enable Firebase services, which will enable Firebase authentication and Firebase hosting. Great. Then it said publishing in progress. Did I already say how much time it took to create this application?
No.
No? It took 1 hour. Out of those 1 hours, 5 minutes were just publishing this. So technically 55 minutes. So in 55 minutes, I had my application ready. And I think the most difficult part for me in this whole process was just waiting for the AI to create things and answer things and publishing it. The rest of it was super easy for me for this particular use case. So once you publish it, or once the application got published, I got my URL. And this is a live URL that I can share with my friends. I can share with the audience of my workshop. So let's actually check it out. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go to the live URL of this app. Here you can see that it's right there. And what we're going to do is take the events title now and create a new workshop. And I'm going to set the workshop goal to say scan, QR, and smile. So let's create this workshop. Once the workshop is created, it's redirecting me automatically. So it's pretty nice of it. I did not have to ask for it. And now we have the attendees done and stuck. I also added a sneaking feature here that I did not show in my slides, and that is showing the QR code, because what's more easier than just showing the QR code to join this workshop. So now you have the possibilities to just scan this, and I want you to scan this with your phone, and you will be able to join this workshop right away. So when you scan this, you're going to see the workshop link, and you'll get a nice emoji and a nice background as well. And there you see, a lot of people are coming in. I'm going to bring the QR code a bit big now. Good. I see a lot of people. I'm going to hide it for a while and show you the slider. So as you can see, the slider also works as I suggested it. So let's make the slider like this, and I can show the QR code now. And you can also try the buttons. If you say stuck, you're going to see your emoji here being stuck. If you use the green button, it's going to say done. And vice versa. So now you can see all these flashing emojis, and I can quickly go and see who's stuck in my workshop in this case. So this is pretty nice. And I can change the goal as well. You should be able to see the goal somewhere. And if I change it to something else, like literally, and save it, it should come to your screen as well as the updated goal. And one of the nicer things also is that I did not have to do anything about the database or the server or anything else for that matter. So if I go to, let's say, Workshop Pulse and go to Firestore database, you can see workshops right here. This is the workshops collection. These are the workshops that we have right now. Let's see if we can find the one for today. Here it is. So AI talks at Tech Pulse. You can see attendees. Somewhere here is you. Don't try identifying, but here you can also see the emojis that you have. Are you stuck? Is a Boolean got created. Joined at, status green. And when you change something, obviously it's going to update here as well. Super nice. So as someone whom if was not technical, I think this is amazing because you can create applications without thinking about all these things going on there. But even as someone who's technical, I think this is pretty good because you can bring your ideas to life pretty quickly without even thinking about all of these things. And if you wanted to change something, of course, you can go in the code and see all of that. And I can actually show you the exact chat. So if you see the scroll bar, it's not as small. So this is all the chat that I have. And a really big part of the chat is a huge error that I shared with it. So here is the error. So see this. This big is the error. Oh, okay. It's too big. And then it says, it's a frustrating issue. Yes, it was. So you can see that a lot of this chat was just the error. And in just a few messages, I could have my application built and then also eventually deployed as well. So having said that, I think we are at the end of the talk. I'm open for questions. If you have more questions and want me to show something more, I could also discuss that as well. For example, Gemini CLI in Firebase Studio could be an interesting thing. But otherwise, I would just love your feedback on the session and how it was and what could be improved. So yeah, I'm open to questions now. Yes.
The simple question is how you could compare this Firebase Studio, for example, to Cursor. Are they similar or they're different?
I think the way you work with Cursor is a bit different because in Cursor you're working. If you remember what we discussed about the extremes of the code, which was here, in Cursor you're more like here only. You can't go this way quite a lot, not without it approving and then checking, etc. And then also I think it's harder for integrating with Google services right there and then, because Firebase Studio is built by Google. It has all the integrations available right there, and it has a much smoother operation in terms of the whole experience for developers, and the fact that you can also deploy with the same project without going to a separate domain or a hosting provider. So I think Firebase Studio delivers much more. But if you ask me technically if it's doing exactly what the Cursor is doing, I would say to some extent yes, but it's doing much more than that.
And Firebase Studio could work only with the Firebase, or it's like it could have some other backends?
I think right now it supports Firebase, but there are plans for working with other providers like Superbase, etc. But I'm not really sure when that would happen.
My question is, can you do Android native application?
I do think you can do Flutter, but I'm not 100% sure about Android, to be honest. but maybe we could check.
Flutter is supposed to be cross-platform, so if you can make a Flutter application, then it could compile it to Android, I guess.
I would think so. Maybe we can check it right now. Let's see. I'm not really sure. I've never seen Android application by default, but maybe there's a possible. So here you can see all the options for the workspace. So you can create a Go app, Python, a .NET, Flutter, Angular, Next.js, and Astro, MongoDB. No, you have React Native there, but I don't think you have native
Okay.
Kotlin or Java there. Oh, there is Java here, but I would assume that is more just backend and not Android. I don't think so. No, it's gonna be just a Java app.
What's your understanding of like why it has hallucinated? Like it said that it was doing something and it hasn't. It wasn't doing.
I don't know the reason, to be honest. I do know it does it sometimes. I've not seen it apart from this, to be honest, because as you can see, I have or maybe you can't see, but I have many projects with Firebase Studio. So Workshop Pulse, there's a mood canvas. This is the gift away thing that I mentioned. I have an app which is animating SVGs. So you upload as SVG and it animates it for you. So all those things, I've not seen the same kind of hallucination that I got with Workshop Pulse. So maybe they improved it later on, but this was a weird experience for me as well. I was like, what are you doing?
I have actually a small question with regards to hallucinations. Is there a way to prevent them by simply prompting that, okay, do not generate something that, where you hallucinate or something? Is it possible or?
There are certain things that you could do. For example, if I go to Gemini CLI, and I hope you can see my screen still. So let's take it here maybe. So in this case, you have, I think now even. So here you see this command, it's called compress. So if you're using OpenAI's Codex or Claude Code or Gemini now, you're going to see similar commands to compress the history. So why do we have hallucinations? Because we either give it not too much context or we give it too much context. In either case, that would happen. For example, in my experience, if I am around 50% of the context window, which means that out of 1 million, I've done 500,000 tokens already, it could start hallucinating. Not in all the cases, but it can do it. And I've seen that more towards that side of things. So once it's past, I would say 40% or 50% of the context window, which means you have less than 65%, then it would start hallucinating because of all this information, and depends on what kind of information that is as well. So what I try to do in that case is I always make sure that if I'm starting a new task, let's say you were doing a task and then that finished. Now, instead of starting a new task in the same context, I would actually create a new chat. So don't keep a lot of context in the same window. That's one technique. Another technique is that all of these tools today have their configuration files. For example, Gemini uses something called gemini.md. Similarly, we have a file for Claude. Similarly, we have one for OpenAI as well. Even for GitHub Copilot, I think there's something called GitHub slash something something. So all these files, you can put your instructions in there. What not to do, what to do. For example, a classic example is when I'm working with a project, it would make some changes and it would say, aha, I'm now going to run npm start. And I'm like, no, don't do it. I've already run that in a separate tab. So those kind of instruction you can already put in these instruction files, and then the AI knows that it should never start the server itself. I'm already running it. So you can guide your AI model with these what we call system instructions, and that's how you can control a lot of hallucinations as well. And then the other way would be to not provide it a lot of context, or to provide it enough context. So those are some techniques that I already know of.
Okay, thank you.
No problem.
Why do you wait 5 seconds to download the app? And if the app is more complex, it would be 1 hour? Or how?
No, I think it was 5 minutes, and I think the 5 minutes were done because when I started saying publish, it generated those projects, then I think it spins up everything. So there are a lot of things when you work with Firebase Studio. So not Firebase Studio, but let's say Google Firestore. It has to enable the APIs. It has to create that database. Similarly, if you're using authentication, it has to go and enable email authentication or SMS authentication. So I think the only time that it took 5 minutes for was just to spin up all these things, and it happened only once. Now, if I change anything in my application, for example, and if I make changes and if I say publish, it's going to go directly and do it pretty fast compared to what we had before. So you can always monitor your application and the progress on how much time it takes. Now, it's not going to take 5 minutes. It's going to take maybe, I don't know, a minute, which is pretty normal. Oh, it says about 5 minutes, but I think it's still going to take not 5 minutes, so to say.
But even if you if you have a Firestore project in a Firebase project and you make a change, it takes time. Even if you just
No. If you make a change, then you see the result right away here. This is just pushing to production. So this is what your end users will see, but the development environment, you see the changes right away. For example, we could make any change in the preview application, and then it is basically a live preview. So you can see the changes right away. Any more questions?
I thought it's very short. So,
Yes. Does someone have a question?
Yeah, I have a question. In my work time, I do normally few tasks by running few agents on different aspects of application, and then they produce me some code, and it's cool. But I would like to I'm looking for a idea that will be able to branch each task, and you will be able to separately commit pull requests running on the same machine without creating multiple Git repositories on a local machine. Does it possible? Is it possible in this Firebase this Studio?
Not here. Have you heard about this thing called Joules?
No, what that?
So probably that's what you're looking for. So if you go to joules.google.com, it's a product from Google, and it probably does exactly what you want. So here, let's say I have this repository. I can create a task right here. I could ask it to do something, and it does it in isolation in here. It boots up a VM in Google infrastructure, and then it performs that exact same task, and it creates a branch for it. Then you can go ahead and say, I'm going to create another task. So you create 5 different tasks, and it does 5 those tasks in different branches, GitHub branches, and it can create, or you can just click a button and it creates a pull request for all of them. So here, for example, maybe this one. So this is one of the tasks that I had it perform, and you can see here that I just said publish branch, or I can say publish PR. So this does exactly that, and it uses Gemini behind the scenes. So I define a task, I ask it to perform the task, it boots up a virtual machine, does all the tasks, runs these commands like yarn dev, blah, 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 whatever my project wanted. Then it made some changes right here, and then it pushed them.
Yeah, but do you have control over it with your idea, like with your development tool?
No, in this particular case, you don't have the control.
So we don't have such a tool yet, like with your idea that you can work in multiple branches and some at the same time.
You could, but I think that's going to cause a lot of problems, to be honest. If you have, what if you spin up 3 different tasks, and all 3 of them decide to update the same file?
Yeah, a couple commits, conflicts.
But you are spinning them at the same time. So if you do it at the same time, they're probably going to edit the same file at the same time, and that could cause some issues.
Okay.
So that could be why. Otherwise, you would have to, I don't know, create 3 copies copies of the folder, and then do those changes and then merge. Becomes a bit more complex, but technically possible. Yeah.
I see.
Good. Any more questions? And this was the other project.
Is it possible to set up some kind of pipelines with this Firebase Studio to have, I don't know, tests executing after each change or something to, be more sure that the new change didn't break anything that was done before, there was no regression introduced?
Yes, I think you could go to a previous state by doing a restore, if that's what you mean.
No,
Do you
what I
mean-
meant is it possible to configure some kind of pipeline that will run a set of tests to verify that the new changes did not introduce regressions? Like if you build a
Mhm.
bigger application with more features, and especially if it's something more corporate, like you have a process where you have to verify that your new feature didn't break any other features that were there before.
That's a really good question. I think there is a way of doing this. So we do have, if you look at my screen here, we have this thing called IDX and this dev.nix settings. I'm pretty sure here is what whatever you're suggesting would go, because here you have the commands to run for the previews and also I think for deployment as well. So in this
Oh,
particular case, you would be able to check it, but I have to check it. To be honest, I don't have the answer right now, but it's an interesting question. I'll write it down.
because I had bad experience with the Replit application.
Mhm.
It's pretty hard to manage the code changes and to really track if your changes are breaking or not. And I was wondering maybe this tool is better, because I see that at least the code editor is much better here than in Replit.
Mhm.
Okay, yeah, I think that's it for me for now. Thank you.
No problem. Thank you for the question. It's a good one. I'll ask the folks at Firebase as well.
Any other questions? I think we don't have any more questions. Thank you very much for your time. It was really interesting, and I hope it was very useful for many of us.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you for having me. Take care.
So Mohammed, thank you very much for coming. Are you still hearing us?
I think
Okay.
I can hear you
So
still.
we were very grateful to have you tonight, and hopefully we might be seeing each other from face to face or maybe virtually. So since then, I think that we will be able to go for drinks, right? And thank you very much again for your time, and sorry again for the small delay.
No problem. Can I ask a quick favor from everyone to please
Sure.
just share your feedback? If you can just take a second to scan this, I
This
would really
one-
appreciate. Yeah.
This one was already done, and it's quite cool to share the feedback like this, right?
Awesome. There's something I built on the side, so maybe I'll reach out to conferences to see if they start using it.
Okay. So it's definitely a good idea. Great idea, in fact.
Thank you. What are you having today? Is it pizza?
yes.
Yeah, pizza day.
Mm. Nice, very nice. Hopefully next time.
Yeah, fully. It would be great to meet in person, you know.
Absolutely. I'm going to share the link with Joffrey as well for the slides as well, so you can go through that if you want to see something again.
Sure.
And sorry.
No, please continue. I will
Yeah,
jump in.
and in the feedback link, what you're scanning right now, there also are links to Gemini CLI. If you scroll all the way down, you'll find the link to Firebase Studio, Gemini CLI, and all my socials as well. So if you want to reach out on LinkedIn, see my GitHub, etc., you can find some interesting projects there as well.
Moment. And you hear me?
Yes.
What do you mean with Google ADK? It's
Did
in
I?
the, well, on the website. The second question is: would you recommend Google ADK to others?
Agent development tool.
Okay.
You can ignore that. I can fix that later on. Or would you recommend Firebase Studio to others?
Yeah. Okay. Okay. I assume
Classic
this,
copy paste.
Okay. Thanks.
Thank you for asking.
Yeah, you didn't check yours.
Okay. What I will do, Mohammed, I will share back the link to the recording that we have done today, because all the sessions were recorded, so that you have your own session and you can look after it as well.
Awesome. That would be nice.
Yeah, I will do that. And thank you again for coming.
Thank you very much. Yeah.
Thank you. Have a good one. Take care. Bye.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.